What's up? You back rocking with your boy, the expert bowler at Expert Bowler Gaming. Today, we got a hot topic for you. How many bowling balls do you really need? I think to kind of preface this, because I know some people are going to be really upset, I want to discuss this topic not about how many bowling balls you have overall, but how many bowling balls you should keep in your current arsenal or rotation. So I think that'll help us guide the conversation. But in order to really explore this topic about how many bowling balls you really need, I think we need to break it down into segments of bowlers so that way, depending on what skill level you are and what your activity level is, you can kind of get something out of this video too. So I believe that there are 4 different segments or levels of bowlers. The first level, of course, would be beginner. The second level would be an intermediate bowler. The third would be an advanced bowler. And then the fourth and highest level would be a professional bowler. So let's get into the video and let's start at the beginning and let's talk about the beginner bowler.
In case you missed it, man, make sure you go check out my sponsors, man. Brunswick Bowling. BrunswickBowling.com is where you go to find the hottest equipment in the game. Whether you need bowling balls, bags, shoes, whatever, we got it, man. Make sure y'all go over there and check out that BrunswickBowling.com. Also, after you get your bowling equipment, man, make sure you go over to CTD Bowling for all your bowling accessories. Bowling ball cleaners, sanding pads, whatever you need, man, we got it. CTDBowling.com. Last but not least, man, make sure y'all check out Twitch.tv. That's where you can find me, the expert bowler, on Twitch TV. Make sure y'all go watch my live streams. I live stream 4 days a week.
The beginner bowler. Where do we start? It's the person who comes into the bowling center. They go up to the rental counter. They ask the person behind the counter for a lane. They rent a pair of bowling shoes from the counter. They look and search around the bowling alley to find the perfect ball that doesn't fit their hand and is probably too heavy or too light for them. And they go to the lane and they throw a bunch of gutter balls and they knock down a few pins here or there. And they have a good time, but they could have more fun. Right? So why does the beginner bowler even need a bowling ball? Why do they need their own bowling ball? Right? The beginner bowler can gain a lot by having their own equipment because it will give them more control. It will allow them to have more fun. It will also allow them to have more comfort. And I think that's probably the biggest thing. So when you talk to people, everybody loves bowling, but they always talk about how the ball hurts their hand and, oh, their arm hurts or something hurts after they bowl, right? But I think we can kind of alleviate some of those issues if the beginner bowler buys their own ball. So I believe that the beginner bowler should have one ball, preferably a bag to carry that bowling ball in, and their own bowling shoes. Because at your local pro shop, you could get a pair of bowling shoes, a ball, and a bag. Usually they have some type of ball, bag, and shoe special, relatively inexpensively. And that ball would be custom fit to your hand. And you would be able to choose what the bowling ball looks like, right? So when we talk about having more fun, you get to kind of personalize your bowling ball. You can pick a bowling ball that represents your favorite sports team. You can pick a bowling ball that represents your favorite movie. Sometimes you can get bowling balls that represent your favorite colors. They've got many, many bowling balls to choose from, right? And if you do bowl a lot and you bowl with your friends and while you're not competitive as per se a league, you might be competitive with your friends. You can kind of upgrade the cover stock of your bowling ball, right? From the kind of entry level beginner plastic cover stock, which kind of really only allows you to throw a pretty much straight ball. Plastic balls will hook. It's all dependent on the lane condition. But for our general purposes, plastic balls go straight. But you will be able to upgrade that to a reactive resin cover stock bowling ball, which, while you do gain a little bit in performance because of the cover stock, you can possibly lose a little bit of control initially until you kind of get used to it. But overall, the reactive resin bowling ball will allow your scoring capability to be higher. The only way you can strike is if that bowling ball hits those pins the right way. In a perfect world, the bowling ball only hits 4 pins. The pin action between those 4 pins and the other 6 pins on the lane is what allows you to strike. So if you want to have higher scores, have more fun, show a little bit of your personality, and be more comfortable when you bowl, get a bowling ball, get a bag, get some shoes, go bowling. So we talked about the beginner bowler. The beginner bowler has now moved on. They're tired of beating up on their friends at the bowling alley when they go out a few days a week. And they have become more interested in the sport of bowling. They've moved to the intermediate level. At the intermediate level, that bowler is looking for a few different things. They're looking for some flexibility in their bowling equipment. They are looking for a way to get higher scores. And they are looking for a way to be more competitive. So, how many bowling balls does the intermediate bowler need to be more competitive, to have more flexibility, and to get higher scores? I think the answer is 3, maybe 4 bowling balls. Let me explain. At the beginner level, you had a plastic ball, something that was fun, represented, your personality, or maybe even an entry-level performance bowling ball, something that, colors you liked, something you recognized, a name you heard because your friends or family had. But ultimately, it wasn't really performance-based. When you join a league, that's something that the intermediate bowler will be doing. So when you join your first league, when you join your second league, one of the things that you will notice as an intermediate level bowler is that the lane condition is probably a little different. So your ball reacts differently when you roll it down the lane. Why is that? Usually your league will have a contract with the bowling establishment that states that they should condition the lanes before the league begins. And all the lanes should be uniform. This means that the lane mechanic will bring out a machine called the oil machine, which puts a conditioner or what we call lane oil on the lane. Part of it is to protect the lane from the friction of the ball rolling down the lane. But ultimately, it's to create a pattern of oil on the lane that can make having higher scores easier or more difficult. So you will need some flexibility with your equipment to be able to take the game that you are building, right? Your style of bowling, and use bowling balls that will be flexible to allow you to continue to bowl the way you like to bowl, but allow your scores to be higher. So we said 3 or 4 bowling balls. What does that look like? I think the first ball would be potentially that entry-level plastic or low-end reactive resin bowling ball. This will be something that, as it was probably your primary ball, now will become more like a spare ball. Something you basically shoot straight at your spares with to make those corner pins, or if the lanes are just really, really dry. Your second ball, should be a step up, right? Something medium performance, something that when the lanes are a little dry, but just enough oil to where your plastic or low end reactive ball is not hooking enough, you'll be able to get that ball to the head pin, to the pocket, and try to be competitive. One step up from that would be upper mid price bowling ball. So that will be something that has a much stronger cover stock, a much stronger core than your mid price ball, midline ball. That will be a bowling ball for when there's medium to heavy oil, something that will have enough teeth for that ball to gain traction in that lane conditioner or that oil that was applied to the lane that will allow your ball to get back to the head pin, back to the pocket, so you can strike. You would still use that low first ball that you got, that plastic ball or that entry level, very low reactive ball to shoot at your spares. The last bowling ball you have in the 3 to 4 ball combo would be a high performance bowling ball, something for heavy oil only. It will be either a reactive cover stock, which will have kind of like a matte finish or a rough texture. It will have surface, is what we call it, on it. Or it will be maybe like a particle reactive blend of the cover stock. So it has more teeth to grip that lane and to create that hook and motion that you're trying to create so you can have higher scores. So if you're at the intermediate level, you should have 3, maybe 4 balls. They have bags that hold these 3 or 4 balls, and they're relatively inexpensive. They're easy to roll and carry and travel with, and that should be what you need at the intermediate level. Let's move on to the advanced level. So as we talk about bowling at the advanced level, let's kind of make a differentiation between the intermediate level and the advanced level. The advanced bowler is a bowler who has been bowling leagues for some years, who has had a taste of competitive bowling through league play, and is now starting to branch out, or has been kind of testing the waters and their abilities at tournaments. So the real difference in my mind between the intermediate bowler and the advanced bowler is tournament bowling. When you start bowling tournaments, your focus changes a little bit. At the advanced level, you are now needing to be more adaptable. You're needing to be more consistent. You're needing to be more strategic about the bowling balls you choose. You're looking to be more competitive. End of story. You're looking to be more competitive. So how many bowling balls does it take to bowl and compete at the advanced level? I believe it takes 6 to 9 bowling balls to compete at the advanced level. At the intermediate level, you had 3 to 4 balls, right? So you got basically 1 bag. When you bowl your league and you know what the lane conditions are going to be basically every week, you can kind of have 1 bag of balls, and you could come into your league and you can do pretty well. You can learn how to make small adjustments and change balls and pretty much stand in the same spot and throw the same line, and your ball will pretty much do the same thing. When you bowl tournaments, you don't control the lane condition, because now there's no agreement between the house and the league to say we're going to put the same shot down every week or whatever it might be. This is a one-time event that's happening over a specified period of time, where the tournament staff or the tournament director has chosen to make this event easy or more difficult. And they do that with that lane machine and that oil pattern that they put on the lane. So now, not only do you need a ball that is a spare ball or a straight ball, a ball that is a low performance, a mid performance, and a high performance, but you need to fill the gaps in between that. So let's say if we started off with the high performance ball, the ball that is only used for like heavy oil, that ball will pretty much have a particular way that it responds on the lane, or shape that you see when you throw the ball down the lane. And that shape is what we call a traction reaction, meaning that that ball is meant to grab the lane as early as possible, to get that ball into that hooking motion as early as possible. What that means is that you just will not see a lot of back end hook. You won't see that ball cover a lot of boards down the lane because that ball has used up more of its hooking energy early on the lane. That's not always useful when you're bowling tournaments, right? So you'll need something that, step down from that, something that is still very strong and aggressive when it comes to the cover stock, but can store a little more energy, can react in the middle part of the lane to get that ball to start its hooking motion, and have a more angular or continuous motion down lane to get to the pocket to give you higher scores, right? So if we had 4 balls, right? We had a spare ball, the low end ball, the medium ball, the high end ball. Now we've got 5 balls, right? We've got a 5th ball, something between that medium ball and that high end ball, right? So then we also, I believe, need 2 types of medium to medium high end balls. We need something that's angular and something that's continuous. So the difference would be an angular ball would make a big, strong motion farther down the lane, going towards that pocket. It will be sharp, it will be aggressive, it will be very noticeable. The continuous ball motion will kind of look like the ball is just doing like a smooth arc, right? When it's going down a lane and it gets to that back end part of the lane. It will be kind of smooth and just continue to keep moving at the same pace to the pocket, to the headpin. Why that's important is because depending on the pattern that you're bowling on, you don't always want your ball to have a sharp diving angle into the pocket. We've all seen, while we've been bowling, people who leave what are called splits or rails, where there is more space between the pins than not. So essentially your ball can go between the pins without hitting either one. That's what we call a split. When the pins are together, it's just a multi-pin spare. You got single pin spares, multi-pin leaves, and then we have splits or rails. And we have washouts. So there are a few different types of leaves we can make. But those big, sharp, angular moves are kind of prone to leaving you with splits and washouts at times. So you don't really want that all the time. So you need to have not only bowling balls that can fit the performance envelope at every level, but you want to have bowling balls that can give you different shapes when it comes to your ball reaction. So that is what the advanced bowler is looking for. Now let's talk about the professional level. It's about to get real. This is what you came here for. We're talking about how many bowling balls does the professional bowler need? Because you're watching my channel, you're not a beginner, you're not an intermediate level. You're an advanced bowler who wants to be a professional, right? You want to be like me, the expert bowler. How many bowling balls do you, as the professional bowler, really need? Well, let's talk about, what makes the professional bowler different from the advanced level bowler. The professional bowler is looking for the ultimate versatility in his arsenal of bowling balls. The professional bowler is looking for the maximum competitive advantage when it comes to their arsenal, when it comes to their bowling equipment. They want to have the best chance to score out of everybody in the bowling alley at all times. They need to have specialized equipment That means drill specifically to do things that are abnormal. Why do they need that? The professional bowler has moved from that, oh, I bowl mainly leagues, but I do compete in a few tournaments a year, to I bowl mainly tournaments and I compete in a league or two throughout the year. So their focus is on tournament play and tournament play alone. They bowl league to bowl with their friends and get some practice and to have fun, but ultimately they're looking at bowling tournaments. So how many bowling balls does the professional bowler need? I think that the professional bowler needs, at the low end, 12 to 15 balls, and at the high end, whatever you can afford. Let me explain a little bit about where I get these numbers from. So I think we talked a little bit about, as the advanced bowler, you need about 6 to 9 balls, right? And we talked a little bit about how you fill the gaps between that basic arsenal from an intermediate level to advanced level. And I think that that same basic formula or strategy still exists. For the professional bowler, they're going to have their 6 to 9 ball arsenal that they kind of use and take everywhere, right? But I think when we talk about specialized equipment for the professional bowler, they're bowling on patterns that are very challenging. They are not only bowling on challenging patterns all across the country, different lane types and lane surfaces, they're also moving lanes as the tournament goes on. So typically the professional bowler only bowls one game on one set of lanes at a time. As soon as that game is over, they move to another set of lanes to bowl their next game. In league, you'll bowl 3 games, maybe 4 games at the most, right? But in these tournaments, they're bowling upwards of 6 and 7 games. Some of these tournaments are held over 2 or 3 days, where you'll bowl 5 to 10 games a day, kind of totaling 30, 40 games sometimes over the duration of the tournament. And you really need to be able to play all across the lane, to do multiple things, to be able to adapt to the people you're following, because everybody's moving lanes and they're switching lanes and they're deciding to play the lanes differently. And if you remember in our advanced bowling ball section, we talked about having bowling balls that were meant for heavy oil, right? So one person might be using a bowling ball that was meant for very heavy oil, that has that traction ball reaction where it's really soaking up the oil, and the surface of the bowling ball is really moving and drying up the oil in the part of the lane that professional bowler is trying to play. So you really need to have equipment that is very, very flexible, adaptable to what you need it to do as the professional bowler. Instead of, you kind of using those bowling balls to play one specific area, now you're using a bowling ball to complement, what you're doing with your hand and where you choose to play and how you choose to adjust during that competition. One difference I think that makes it much more difficult for the professional is that, the moves are very finite, right? Once you kind of get locked into a spot on these hard patterns, you really can't move from that spot without doing something drastically different. And when scoring is the main priority, and if you're getting to the pocket and you're getting strings of strikes, you really don't want to change anything, right? So being able to adjust your hand or maybe have the same bowling ball at a different surface or drilled a little bit differently really comes in handy. So when you think about how do we get to having 15 bowling balls? How do you know how to use 15 bowling balls? And when do you know which ball to pick and what to use, right? So the professional bowler is more likely to have more than one of the exact same bowling ball that they will use on this specific pattern on this specific day to keep them kind of locked in the zone where they can play and they can throw strikes. And that's kind of the difference. That's how they kind of get to having 15 or 20 balls, and they'll have 2 or 3 balls in one bag that are all the same, that may be drilled differently and might be at different surfaces, to allow them to stay in that zone as long as they can as they move pairs. So if you want to know more about bowling, how many balls you need, what type of equipment you need, you already know what to do. Hit that subscribe button and stay tuned for more content from me, the expert bowler. And make sure you click that bell so you can get notified when I drop new videos, because you don't want to miss this hotness. I'm telling you stuff that nobody else is saying. So you want to learn how to get better. You want to go from a beginner to a professional. Stay tuned. Keep watching the videos. I got much more content. I am the expert bowler, and this is Expert Bowler Gaming. Y'all already know, man. I'm out.